I'm gonna set a timer so I don't record for too long because I tend to take too long. Hi, I'm Dan, product designer and your UX career coach. And today I'm going to talk a bit about how I found my specialty within UX and how you can find that as well. And that's actually because I got a question on my Instagram from a follower wondering what my specialty is. And I think it's an interesting topic because I've found that a lot of juniors start to think about this quite early. And I think it's good to start thinking about what kind of designer you want to be, what kind of direction you want to go, but people are definitely stressing a bit about this. I talk about that in my previous video, and it's kind of similar here. So I just want to tell you to not stress, and I want to illustrate why with the story, my journey of finding my niche or specialty, because I didn't know I was going to be where I am today, and I probably would never have guessed it. So definitely don't stress. I will share that with you, and I'll give you some tips on how you can find your niche or specialty over time. But before I do that, hit that like button and hit subscribe, because every time you do, one less person will ask you what UX is. So the first specialty I had was a UX researcher who was good at usability tests. And the reason why was because in 2016, I just finished studying at Masters in Human Computer Interaction, and I wanted to do UX design, but you weren't really trained in the design process in that program. You were mostly exploring technology and different ways you could create interactions with that user interfaces. So I ended up not being that good at the design process. So I decided to focus on UX research, with usability testing being my main thing because I felt I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I was good at talking to people and trying to understand how they were thinking. So I ended up doing that as my first job, but pretty quickly, after a year, I felt that, okay, so I thought I was gonna enjoy UX research, but I was too far from creating the actual product, which was the reason I wanted to get into UX in the first place. I wanted to create something that people would love. And I felt doing UX research, I was too far removed from that. So the next specialty I had was as a UX UI designer who was a bit better at UX research and usability testing than others. So I did that in my second year as a UX designer or as a UX professional. So I was a UX UI designer who was a bit good at UX research. And it was after that, so in 2019, where I started to become more specialized, less general than a UX researcher and a UX UI designer. I read a book called Hacking Growth, which is about growth hacking. And at that time, I was working for a fintech startup in Hong Kong. And I was completely inspired by what was in this book. And I wanted to try this out. I wanted to become more valuable to the startup and have more impact. So I pitched the idea of me focusing on increasing the retention. And that led me to being part of a growth team. So I did that as my thing. And I felt that, this is actually something unique, or I think most designers don't go this route of growth hacking. So that's where I ended up. And after my time at the startup, I actually discovered something else, which was workshops. And that was through Agent Smart. I listened to the Jake and Jonathan podcast, and I watched their videos, and I In the same way I got really hooked on growth hacking, I got hooked on workshops because that was super broad. So it was very interesting in the fact that you could come in not knowing anything and then be super useful. Basically, it was kind of a superpower, or more that you were a guide that would unlock the superpower in others, and that was super interesting. So I thought that was gonna be kind of my specialty. I'd become a workshopper. I think I have, maybe not here. Okay, I have the workshopper book. It's somewhere around here. But so for 2021, from January, I started to, or December 2020, I started to do lots of workshops. I even have a article. I was interviewed by AJ Smart, or Workshopper, where I talked about the workshops that I did at H&M Group, where I currently am and I was at that time. So I was at that point a workshopper, but another thing happened around that time. I was asked to switch teams from the web checkout team, which I had joined in 2020, and to switch to I can't say the name right now, but I switched to a product team within innovation and incubation. So basically an innovation product team. And here I felt that I could provide lots of value as a designer, because there's so much uncertainty when it comes to innovation and creating a product from scratch. And the specialty, the innovation, the specific innovation I was interested in was transformative innovation. So it was about creating a new business model, kind of transforming how the current business works, or creating a new revenue source. So that is currently where I am, and I'm completely loving it, and that because I'm having the impact that I realize I wanted in the end. I want to create something people love, and to do that you usually have to create something innovative, and I always wanted more impact. And can you have more impact than creating the next big thing for the company, creating a completely new revenue source? Difficult to beat. So that's where I am right now. And as you can see, I would never have guessed in the start when I was there as a UX researcher doing usability tests that I would end up 4 years later as a product designer within innovation. So take that story and put it in your brain and stop stressing. So relax, all right? So some tips for you on how for you to discover your path. Don't stress again. I don't know how many times I'm going to stress to not stress, but here are some things you can do. So one thing I recommend, which I do with my clients, my UX career coaching clients, is to map yourself where you currently are and where you think you want to be, because this is just going to make it easier for you to explore or see where you haven't really explored some things, and kind of document where you think you are and where you think you want to be. Usually it's going to change, but this helps you to think about it more clearly. Instead of having it stuck in your head, you have it in front of you, usually on screen. So the workshop that I recommend is this one, made by two Polish product designers or UX designers. I cannot pronounce their names, so I will ask Google Translate to pronounce it for me.
Katarzyna Małkiewicz and Wojciech Zasina.
Thank you for your workshop. So that would be my first tip. The second tip I have is to keep a daily journal. So I journal daily in order to find patterns in my days, my weeks, my months, because it's when you zoom out and look at all these things that you find, like, okay, who am I really? What do I really think? It's difficult to just do it day by day. So you don't have to do anything complex. What I'd recommend you to do, okay, almost, okay. So what I'd recommend you to do is to write down kind of what were the positives and negatives in your day when it comes to working. So maybe there was some kind of activity that you really enjoyed. Maybe you really liked doing, for example, usability tests, or maybe you liked doing workshops, or maybe you noticed that you didn't like doing UI design because it was too detail oriented, or maybe you didn't like to talk to stakeholders or something like that. So start to write that down to create awareness of what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And my next tip is to get inspiration. So in my story, there were, I think, 2 times where I just read something or experienced something and then I switched the kind of designer I wanted to be or what my focus would be. So the first one was I read a book, I read Hacking Growth and discovered growth hacking. And the second one was I listened to the Jake and Jonathan podcast and also watched Agent Smart's YouTube videos where they talked about workshops. And I thought it was super cool, super inspiring. So my tip for you is to get inspiration, talk to other designers, look online, what are other people doing, listen to podcasts, to find out what is out there and to see what you kind of react to, what sounds interesting that could help you in further discovering your path. And my last tip would be to say yes in doing things that you haven't tried before, just to get that experience, to expose yourself and understand what you like and what you don't like. For example, the way I got into innovation design was because I was asked if I wanted to switch teams. And I didn't expect to want to make innovation my thing, my niche, my specialty. But because I said yes and because I tried it out, now I know that that's where I want to be. So those are my tips. And I hope that helps. If it helps, please subscribe for more UX career tips. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell. And I'll see you in the next one.